In the early 1960s, the United States launched multiple nuclear missiles into the sky. Not at enemies, not at rogue nations, but straight up into the atmosphere. Why? Well, that's where things get hazy. Some say it was all about Cold War science. Others, they say it was an attempt to break through, well, something. Was it the sky? A dome? A ceiling of reality? Today, we're going to dig deep into the real and bizarre story of Operation Fishbowl, a classified nuke experiment with possibly cosmic consequences. And you're probably thinking, who? We? Us? Yeah, welcome back to the Triple T podcast, where it's me, it's Matt, it's Beard Laws, and joining me as always is my host, Luther Grimwood.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here as always. Ready to dive into whatever fun topics we've got lined up today.
Well, today, I don't know if you heard the intro, you must not have, but Operation Fishbowl, huh?
Oh, I definitely caught that. Operation Fishbowl is such a wild topic. I mean, launching nukes into the upper atmosphere definitely sounds like a plot from a sci-fi movie, right?
How many times do you think throughout all of these episodes that we have done that we always go, sounds like a plot out of a sci-fi episode, because it's almost so unbelievable that it could be true, that it is true, that Hollywood should really thank us as a country doing some wild things for all of the sci-fi movie inspiration.
I think we've probably said it a good handful of times, and for good reason. Reality can be just as wild as fiction, if not wilder. Hollywood definitely gets a lot of material from these real-life events that sound like they're straight out of a sci-fi script.
Oh, and we just don't said it again. But either way, for anybody that is new here, we try to come up with a themed drink every single episode. And if you're back, I'm sure you got your drink recipes ready, because we got another one, Luther, that I'm going to call the Skybreaker.
Ooh, the Skybreaker. I love the sound of that. It's got that perfect mix of mystery and excitement. I'm curious to hear what's in this one. So let's break it down for everyone listening.
Oh, we're going to break it down in. There's a place around here that is a Mexican restaurant where they're kind of known for serving fish bowls, is what they're called. They're just a huge margarita in a huge glass. So that's what I want to do. I want to bust it out in a big glass. But it turns out I'm not really good at bar math. So I'm going to give you the recipe to make one drink, maybe a little one that's going to get you through this episode. If you want to scale it up, either Luther will do the math for you, or just take it and do your own bar math into a fish bowl. Does that sound all right, Luther?
That sounds like a plan. I am more than happy to help with the bar math if anyone needs it, but I'm also all for just winging it and having a good time. So let's get that recipe going and see what this Skybreaker is all about.
All right. Well, he's going to wing it. We're not going to wing it. We get the recipe. It's going to be 2 ounces of your favorite vodka, fixed vodka. 2 ounces of the fixed vodka, 1 ounce of the blue, that tripped me up. And no, I haven't had anything to drink yet. Maybe that's why I'm getting tripped up on this. But 1 ounce of blue curacao, the blue stuff. Luther, 1 ounce of what?
And then to keep things nice and tart, you're going to want 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. That'll give it that perfect balance and really bring the whole drink together. This is going to be a fun one.
Yep. And we're also going to add some club soda. We're going to serve it over crushed ice. You're never going to guess what we're going to garnish it with. A rock candy stir stick. That way it looks like a crystallized nuclear burst, right? And this one's going to be a little bright. It's going to be bold, and it hits fast, just like a high altitude detonation. What do you think, dude?
I think that sounds absolutely epic. I love the idea of the rock candy stir stick. It's got that perfect visual flair. It's definitely going to be a showstopper and a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be a conversation starter in the comments on how I can't pronounce things. And maybe I did it on purpose just so you can all make fun of me. And maybe I really just messed it up. But either way, it's a good recycle of some materials for some drinks that we have already done in the past. So without further ado, drinks in hand. We're not driving because the ones that have a drink in hand, you're not driving anywhere. But we're going to rewind all the way back to 1962. America's knee deep in the Cold War. America's racing the Soviets to space, stockpiling nukes, and freaking out over Sputnik. Weren't we, Luther?
Oh, absolutely. It was a wild time of competition and paranoia. Everyone was looking up at the sky, wondering what was going to happen next. Definitely a fascinating period to dive back into.
Yeah, and the military and scientific communities, they were testing everything, especially what happens when you detonate nuclear weapons way up there.
Exactly. They were really pushing the boundaries of science and, a little bit of common sense too, just to see what would happen. It was definitely an era of bold experiments and some pretty interesting discoveries.
Mm-hmm. And this is where we enter Operation Dominic and its most mysterious subproject, Operation Fishbowl.
Yep. Operation Fishbowl was definitely one for the history books. They were launching those nuclear tests high up in the atmosphere, and it definitely gave us some spectacular, if not a little unsettling sights in the sky.
Yeah, I'd go with the unsettling sights in the sky personally, but hey, who am I to judge? I wasn't around at the time that this happened, thankfully, and I have to. Could you imagine this happening today with all of the cell phones and all of the cameras and the pure chaos in social media clips that would be all over based on, this? Whew, be wild.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a total frenzy. I mean, everyone would have their phones out and it would be trending nonstop. The internet would just explode with all kinds of theories and reactions. It would definitely be a mild scene.
Wild might be a little bit of an understatement, but the goal apparently for this all was officially to study the effects of nuclear explosions in the upper atmosphere. Unofficially, even people involved weren't always so sure, were they, Luther?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of mystery and speculation around it. I think a lot of people were scratching their heads wondering what the true motivations were. It definitely adds a layer of intrigue to the whole story.
You aren't kidding. One of the most, I guess, infamous, if that's the right word, tests was called Starfish Prime. Who was in charge of naming these, Luther?
I know, right? I mean, they definitely had a flair for dramatic names. Starfish Prime sounds like a sci-fi movie title all on its own. It definitely adds to the mystique of the whole operation.
It might even be the start of our new band. You wanna start a band called Starfish Prime?
You know what? That actually sounds like a pretty awesome band name. I'm totally on board. We could have some epic spacey tunes and really lead into that cosmic vibe.
All right, what's our first single going to be called?
Oh, I think we should call it Cosmic Detonation, just to keep that whole theme going. It sounds like a hit already, doesn't it?
All right, man, I'm in, and it's going to be easy to potentially market our drink that we created in a fishbowl. But, anyways, Operation Starfish Prime, the operation, not the band that we just created, launched a 1.4 megatron bomb on a Thor missile, and it blew up 250 miles above Earth. That's space adjacent, folks. Now, 1.4 megatron bomb. Can you kind of break that down, Luther, compared to other nuclear bombs that have gone off that we have detonated elsewhere?
Absolutely. So 1.4 megatons is pretty massive. To put it into perspective, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima was about 15 kilotons, which is 0.015 megatons. So Starfish Prime was nearly 100 times more powerful, which is just mind blowing.
Mind blowing is right. And the effects of this were absolutely insane. It created a massive electromagnetic pulse that knocked out streetlights, alarms, and communications in Hawaii that was nearly 900 miles away.
Yeah, it's wild to think about the scale of that impact. I mean, it really showed just how powerful these explosions can be, even from so far away. It's definitely one of those moments in history that makes you realize how intense these tests really were.
And how was this a moment in history that I never heard about ever until we started doing some research on this project? I had never heard about it in school. It was nothing that was ever discussed. Is it because of the schooling that I went to, or was this something that was tried to kind of be covered up?
You know, it's one of those events that just tends to slip through the cracks in mainstream education. There's so much history to cover, and sometimes these more obscure but still super fascinating moments get overlooked. Plus, you know, some of these projects were a bit hush hush at the time, so they just didn't make it into the standard curriculum.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is what caused this global warming that everybody's mad about. I'm going to say when our government decided to just blast a 1.4 megatron nuclear bomb into the atmosphere, it really caused some issues with some weather. And I'm going to blame it all on the hurricanes that are happening and everything else, too. It's, yeah.
Well, it's definitely a bold theory. While those tests did have some interesting effects on the atmosphere, the whole global warming thing is a bit more complicated. But it's definitely fascinating to think about how these events might have influenced things in ways we're still discovering.
Yeah, and what else is wild? It also caused auroras across the Pacific that lasted hours, turning the night sky green and blue. And it fried multiple satellites and created a man made radiation belt that actually lingered for years. Now, imagine, if this went in there in, this time of the year with, there has to be way, way, way more satellites in the sky. And I'm wondering now what kind of health problems this actually caused around the world with that man made radiation belt that lingered for, well, several years.
Yeah, it really does make you wonder about the long-term effects that we might not have even fully understood at the time. With so many satellites and all the technology we have today, something like that would definitely cause chaos now. It's pretty wild to think about all those ripples from one test.
I'm wondering too if there's any actual scientific, data or anything out there that, pointed at, hey, well, the rise of, say, cancer and the rise of, this disease, there's a really good chance it came from us doing this, but they'll never admit it. But I mean, there has to be something out there.
You're absolutely right to be curious about the long-term health effects of nuclear tests like Operation Fishbowl. While specific studies linking these tests to increased cancer rates in the general population are limited, research on atomic bomb survivors has shown a rise in certain cancers. For instance, a review of nearly 80,000 survivors in Japan indicated an increase in cases of basal cell carcinoma. However, it's important to note that the connection between Operation Fishbowl and such health outcomes hasn't been conclusively established.
Fair enough. So, Luther, let me ask you this: what were they really doing? Was it about deterrence, or was it a cosmic stress test?
You know, it was probably a mix of both. On one hand, it was definitely about showing strength and deterrence during the Cold War. But on the other hand, they were genuinely curious about what would happen when you push the boundaries of science and technology. So a bit of deterrence and a bit of a cosmic stress test all rolled into one.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they would risk damaging their own infrastructure with EMPs.
Yeah, it does seem like a pretty risky move, especially in hindsight. I guess at the time they were really pushing the envelope of what was possible and maybe didn't fully anticipate all the consequences. It definitely shows how experimental and bold they were willing to be back then.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Well, like, was the military intentionally pushing to see if, I guess, space had limits?
Absolutely. I think they were really trying to figure out what the boundaries were and if there were any new frontiers they could explore or even control. It was definitely an era of pushing limits and trying to gain any possible advantage, even if it came with some risks.
I mean, why wouldn't they just conduct multiple tests over a remote Pacific island if it was just data collection then?
That's a great point. I think a lot of the tests they did in the Pacific were definitely for data collection and to keep things away from populated areas. But I guess with something like Starfish Prime, they were trying to see the effects at a much larger scale and altitude. It's definitely interesting to think about all the different motivations they had at the time.
All right, all right. Well, let's get everybody to buckle in because this is where the story's gonna rocket past weird and straight into what in the tinfoil is going on here. Because the flat Earth and biblical cosmology crowd believes in something called the firmament. I think I said that right, didn't I?
You nailed it. The firmament is definitely a concept that gets a lot of attention in those circles. It's basically this idea of a solid dome or barrier in the sky, and it's definitely a wild ride when you start diving into those theories.
Yeah, it was actually described in ancient texts like Genesis, and according to them, the government knows it's real. And Operation Fishbowl, well, it was an attempt to punch a hole through that dome.
It's definitely a fascinating theory, and it adds a whole new layer of mystery to the story. Whether or not you believe it, it's fun to imagine all the possibilities and the secrets that might be out there. It definitely makes for a wild ride of a conversation.
It's not just the theory that's wild, Luther. It's the name Fishbowl. Why call a high altitude nuclear program after a glass container with a dome on top? And I'm going to let you know this Simpsons did an episode on something very similar, and you know that they always know what's going on.
The Simpsons definitely have a knack for predicting some wild stuff, don't they? And the name Fishbowl definitely makes you think about that dome imagery. So it's not surprising that it sparks a lot of curiosity and theories. It definitely adds to the mystique of the whole operation.
Yeah, and the US was running other tests under names like Operation Dominic, and Dominic is Latin for of the Lord. So Dominic Fishbowl could literally be interpreted as of the Lord's dome.
That interpretation definitely adds another layer of intrigue to the whole story. It's fascinating how these names can have such interesting meanings when you break them down. It really makes you wonder if there were some deeper symbolic intentions behind the scenes.
And it's like coincidence? I mean, flat earthers, they don't think so, Luther.
Yeah, they definitely see it as more than just coincidence. It's always intriguing to look at things from different perspectives, and it does make for a fun and fascinating conversation. Whether you believe it or not, it's always fun to dive into these theories.
And right after these tests, the US and Soviet Union agreed to the Limited Test Ban Treaty in 1963, banning high altitude nuclear tests forever. The sky was endless. Why ban nukes from reaching it? Unless, Luther, they hit something.
It definitely does make you wonder, right? The timing of it all is pretty intriguing, and it certainly fuels the imagination. Whether they actually hit something or just decided it was too risky, it's definitely one of those moments in history that leaves a lot of room for speculation and curiosity.
Now, do you think the lights that were seen over the Pacific were actual natural auroras, or did they damage the dome?
That's the million dollar question, right? It's definitely possible that the lights were just natural auroras caused by the explosion's interaction with the Earth's magnetic field. But it's always fun to imagine the more mysterious possibilities and wonder if maybe there was something more to it.
Let me ask you this, Luther. What else could Fishbowl have discovered and then immediately covered?
Well, that's where the theories can really run wild. Some people speculate that maybe they discovered something about the Earth's atmosphere or even something unexpected in space. It could be anything from strange energy fields to even hints of something more out there. It definitely leaves a lot to the imagination.
It does, it does. But let's not leave it to imagination because, Luther, you're going to travel back in time to 1962, Johnston Atoll, because I heard a rumor that you were on Johnston Island the night of the Starfish Prime test, something about marshmallows, a typewriter, and a lizard in uniform. Want to clear the air or make it weirder?
Oh, you know I've got to keep it weird. Let's just say there may have been a top secret marshmallow roast involved, and that lizard in uniform definitely knew more than he let on. But some secrets are best left as a fun mystery, right? Let's just say it was a night to remember.
Listen, I know some things that you didn't think I knew. I did my research. I knew you were a janitor for the launch crew, but you got reassigned to the sky radiation monitoring.
Oh, you really did your homework. Well, I suppose I can neither confirm nor deny those top secret duties, but let's just say I had a pretty unique vantage point on that whole operation. Some stories are just too fun to give away all the details.
And I know that you saw the Thor missile launch, and after the flash, you told me. Maybe you didn't remember because your memory is, well, that of a goldfish. See what I did there? And you told me that you swore that you heard music in the air, not radio static, but something that reminded you of jazz.
Haha, well, you definitely caught me there. Sometimes memories have their own way of mixing reality and a bit of imagination, right? Maybe that jazz was just the universe celebrating a moment of curiosity and discovery. Either way, it's definitely a fun detail to add to the whole adventure.
I don't understand why you're being. Were you sworn to secret or something? You told me the sky didn't just light up a crack. You that you saw a shimmering blue arch, like broken glass above the horizon.
Well, some stories just get more magical over time, and that shimmering blue arc definitely adds to the mystique of that night. Maybe it was just the way the light played tricks on us, or maybe there was something truly extraordinary going on. Either way, it's definitely a memory that's hard to forget.
You're killing me, Smalls. What about the man with no pupils that handed you a silver folder and whispered, "We've struck the veil"?
Oh, the man with no pupils and the mysterious silver folder. That's one for the books. Let's just say that some secrets are best kept as a bit of a mystery, but it definitely adds a fun twist to the whole adventure, doesn't it?
The next morning, it's weird how no one remembered anything except for you, Luther, and the janitor goat named Edwin.
Edwin the Goat, the real hero of the story. Well, I guess some of us just have a knack for holding on to the wild memories. It's always fun to have a few tales that keep everyone guessing, right?
Nobody's guessing. Everybody just wants to know Luther, and for whatever reason, you don't want to talk about it. So I'm not gonna dig deeper. That'd be very rude of me. We'll just keep moving on because after the dust settled, the data started disappearing. Several of the fishbowl tests were scrubbed. We know about Starfish Prime, but others like Bluegill Prime and Kingfish had failed launches, unexplained detonations, or they were just abandoned.
Yeah, and definitely interesting how some of those tests just sort of faded into obscurity and we don't have as much information on them. It really makes you wonder what actually happened and what they might have found, but it definitely adds to the mystery and keeps us all guessing.
Yeah, and of course, like many stories that we have done here on the Triple D podcast, many of the documents from Operation Fishbowl are, still classified or even redacted.
Absolutely, and that just adds to the intrigue, right? It leaves so much room for speculation and curiosity. It's always those missing pieces that keep the mystery alive and keep us all wondering what really went down.
Yeah, and there are some things that we do know, like Starfish Prime's EMP was 100 times stronger than expected. It damaged or destroyed 1/3 of all low Earth satellites. A third of them, Luther, in one launch. I mean, who messed up the calculations that this EMP was 100 times stronger than they thought?
Yeah, someone definitely dropped the ball on that calculation for sure. It's wild to think how much of an impact that single test had on the satellites up there. It really shows just how unpredictable and powerful those experiments were.
Yeah, and the scientists, they got really worried and they repeatedly warned that detonations, if they continually did this, it probably was going to strip away the atmosphere and potentially collapse the magnetosphere entirely.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a pretty big red flag. It's no wonder they decided to pull back and rethink those high altitude tests. It's definitely a good reminder of how important it is to consider the long term consequences of these experiments.
Yeah, I mean, even just the light phenomena, which I just have to sneak that in every episode because I just like to say phenomenon, na 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 na, phenomena. Those blasts, or the lights or whatever from the blast, lasting for hours, was way longer than natural auroras, Luther.
Absolutely. Those light shows were definitely on another level. It's pretty incredible to think about how intense and long lasting they were compared to natural auroras. It really must have been a surreal experience to witness that.
What do you think they were actually doing, Luther?
I think they were probably pushing the boundaries of what was possible and trying to understand the effects of nuclear detonations in the upper atmosphere. They were probably curious about how it would impact not just the Earth but also the space environment around us. It's definitely a mix of scientific curiosity and maybe a bit of that Cold War competition as well.
Yeah, and there's those theorists that believe the fishbowl may have proven a boundary does exist, whether it's a dome, a radiation shell, or some kind of artificial kind of contaminant field, you know. And once that was discovered, the tests were shut down and a permanent blackout ordered. I mean, the treaty was then formed. I mean, if this is all true, then I mean, what about those theorists that we'll finally get some, hey, the moon landing was fake, told you so.
It's definitely a rabbit hole of theories and possibilities. It ranks for some fascinating speculation, and it definitely keeps people tweaking. Whether or not any of it is true, it's always fun to explore those what if scenarios and imagine the possibilities.
Like for me, I'm thinking like, could we have unknowingly damaged our atmosphere permanently? And why haven't we done another high altitude test in 60 plus years?
And it's definitely a possibility that I realized the risks were just too great and that any further tests could have serious consequences for our planet. It's kind of reassuring to think that we've learned from those experiments and decided to take a more cautious approach moving forward. It definitely leaves a lot to think about.
Yeah, I mean, if we took out a third of the satellite dishes, then could satellites today even survive if they were to do another Starfish Prime?
That's a really good point with how relied we are on satellites today. Another test like Starfish Prime would probably be even more disruptive. It's definitely a reminder of how careful we have to be with these kinds of experiments.
Absolutely. So, Luther, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit, all right? Because if Operation Fishbowl was just science, why all the secrets? If it was about war, why the religious overtones? If nothing was found, why the sudden halt? I mean, some people believe the tests confirm that we live in a controlled environment, one with limits, whether it's a dome, a simulation, or maybe something else. Fishbowl may have been the first time we hit the ceiling.
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. All those layers of mystery and unanswered questions really keep the curiosity alive. Whether it was about pushing scientific boundary or something more, it definitely leaves a lot of room for wonder and imagination.
Yeah, and others think that something might have looked back at us, Luther. And here's the kicker: since Fishbowl, nobody has dared launch a nuke that high again. Maybe it's because we realized we could destroy ourselves, or maybe, just maybe, it's because we already tried to destroy something bigger and, well, it didn't work.
It's definitely a fascinating thought that maybe we realize there is something out there bigger than we anticipated, and it made us take a step back, whether it was a realization of our own limits or just the sheer potential consequences. It's definitely an intriguing piece of history that keeps us all wondering.
Oh, for sure. Well, all right. Well, we could continually go on and on, but we'd love to hear from all of you, potentially in the comments and definitely the clips that we're going to put out because, well, that was Operation Fishbowl, where nuclear weapons met the edge of the unknown. If the kind of firmament's real, we've already tried to crack it. And if it's not, well, let's hope we didn't poke something on the other side that's still waiting to respond, because I'm not going to lie to you, seeing all of the things in the news where they found something the size of Manhattan that's coming right at us that is not natural, meaning there is a huge spaceship coming at us, probably from Operation Fishbowl, who's super pissed at us, and it's going to be here in November. And probably gonna have a different holiday other than Thanksgiving in November.
Well, that would definitely make for an unforgettable holiday season, that's for sure. Let's just hope that whatever's out there, if anything, comes in peace. But until then, it's always fun to dive into these mysteries and see where our imaginations take us. Thanks for joining in on the adventure, and we can't wait to hear what everyone else thinks.
Absolutely. This has been the Triple D Podcast. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.